Ever meet someone so brazenly rude you have to stop and ask yourself, did they really just say that out loud? Like their ego entered the room before they did. These are the people who talk over you, throw shade like it's casual conversation, and walk around with the attitude that the world owes them an apology, and somehow they expect you to just nod, smile, and absorb it, like your boundaries don't matter. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Disrespect only thrives where permission is given. And most of us? We've been trained to stay quiet, to keep the peace, to turn the other cheek while our dignity gets chipped away piece by piece. But what if I told you that silence isn't strength when it's born out of fear? It's surrender. In this video, we're going to dismantle the lie that staying calm means staying passive, and show you how real power responds when disrespect knocks. Don't lower yourself to their level. There's a certain type of silence that feels louder than any shout. It happens when you decide to stop justifying your worth to people who aren't even qualified to question it. You ever been there? Someone talks down to you with this smug sense of superiority, like they've just forgotten that respect is a two-way street. You're sitting there thinking, did that really just come out of their mouth? It stings for a second, and then something inside you shifts. You realize, I don't have to match this energy. I don't need to respond in kind. I can choose strength over spectacle. And in that moment, you reclaim your power, not by clapping back louder, but by standing firm in calm dignity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That quote lives in my bones, because when you respond to disrespect with dignity, you don't just protect your peace, you starve their ego. Rude people crave chaos. They feed off emotional reactions, off the feeling that they got to you. So when you deny them that satisfaction, that's the real burn. That's power. Stoicism teaches us something we often forget in the heat of the moment, that our reactions are the only thing we truly control. Not their words, not their tone. Just the way we choose to meet the moment. When you say, I don't lower myself to your level, you're not being passive. You're being precise. You're drawing a line in the sand without stepping into theirs. Carl Jung believed that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That used to frustrate me, because when someone disrespects you, the last thing you want to do is turn inward. But over time, I learned, when I stay calm in the face of someone else's storm, I see exactly how far I've come. The old me would have exploded, tried to prove a point, tried to win the room. Now, I don't play games with people who are losing battles with themselves. Disrespect thrives in noise. It survives because people engage with it, fuel it, make a scene. But when you let it die quietly, it has nowhere to go. It suffocates in your silence. That's why your calmness isn't just personal growth, it's psychological dominance. The next time someone talks down to you, tries to bait you, tries to drag you into their circus, remember this. You don't need to fight. You don't need to flinch. You just need one line, calmly delivered, that ends the conversation before it even begins. I don't lower myself to your level. And then walk away. Let them sit with the silence. Let them feel the absence of your reaction. That's the kind of power you can't fake, and the kind they'll never forget. Don't let your peace be hijacked by provocation. There's a strange kind of silence that follows when someone tries to provoke you, and you simply don't react. At first, they wait for the explosion, the raised voice, the defensive posture. But when it doesn't come, when all they're met with is calm and clarity, something unsettling happens to them. They realize they've lost control. That's when you've already won. Because the moment you stop giving your energy to chaos, you become something they can't manipulate. A still flame, in a room full of wind. Most people walk through life like emotional sponges, absorbing every insult, every passive-aggressive jab, every slight glance that doesn't feel quite right. They personalize everything. They let it eat away at them, shaping their mood, their words, their entire day. But there's another way, a wiser way. The Stoics believed that real strength isn't in how loud you clap back, but in how little you need to. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That quote doesn't just sound good, it's a life strategy. Because when you finally accept that your peace is your own, you stop handing it out to people who haven't earned it. When someone can no longer trigger you, they no longer control you. The more you react, the more you reveal your buttons, your fears, your insecurities. But when you hold your peace, when you guard it like sacred ground, you become untouchable. Carl Jung once noted that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. It's true. I started to see that the people who annoyed me most weren't showing me something about them. They were exposing something unhealed in me. And when I stopped reacting, I could finally see it for what it was, a lesson, not a threat. You see, not every comment deserves a reply. Not every insult is worth unpacking. Some things are just noise testing your inner volume, and if your peace is loud enough, the noise fades into irrelevance. That's the real flex, not showing how sharp your tongue is, but how unshakable your spirit is. Let them throw shade, let them bait you, let them drown in their own noise while you walk out dry. Don't let their words live in your head. It's strange how certain words stick. They echo, not because they're true, but because they hit something raw, something unfinished inside you. You can walk away from a moment physically, but still carry it mentally, like an old, unwanted souvenir. Ever notice that? How disrespect doesn't just come and go, it lingers, like an unwelcome guest who refuses to leave. That's how it works. Someone says something careless or cruel, and suddenly you're lying awake at night, reliving it, rewriting your response, wondering if you should have said more, done more. But here's the thing nobody tells you. You don't have to let their words take up space in your mind. You are not a storage unit for other people's projections. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That quote hits different when you're replaying someone's insult over and over in your head, doesn't it? Because most of the damage isn't from what they said, it's from what you let it become inside you. The interpretation, the repetition, the false belief that maybe, just maybe, they were right. But that's the trick disrespect plays. It wears the mask of truth and hopes you won't look closely enough to question it. Carl Jung once observed that what you resist persists. But I've learned it's not just about resisting thoughts. It's about acknowledging them without renting them space. You can say, "I heard that. I see what you're trying to do." And no, you don't get to stay. That's not denial, that's self-protection. It's psychological hygiene. Because the truth is, not every opinion is worth internalizing. Not every insult is a blueprint for your identity. The people who throw the harshest words often have the most unresolved pain. They lash out not because they see you clearly, but because they don't see themselves at all. They need you to hurt so they can feel powerful. But when you deny them that, when you walk away clean, unaffected, unapologetic, that's when they realize they never had any power to begin with. Disrespect only grows when you water it with attention, when you replay the moment, dissect the tone, write imaginary comebacks in your head. That's how it multiplies. But when you say no, this doesn't live here, you take the air out of it. You end the loop. You protect your inner space like it's sacred ground, because it is. So next time someone throws shade, a low blow, or a careless insult, pause. Ask yourself, do I want to carry this? Do I want to keep hearing this every time I close my eyes? And if the answer is no, make it final. Say it out loud if you need to. I won't let your words live in my head. That's not weakness, that's freedom. And that's the kind of power that doesn't just silence your enemies. It silences your overthinking, your self-doubt, your need to make sense of nonsense. Their disrespect reveals more about them than you. It's wild how often people show you who they are without even realizing it. You think they're attacking you, insulting you, tearing you down. But if you listen closely, you'll hear something else. A confession, wrapped in sarcasm, drenched in bravado, but a confession nonetheless. Because the truth is, people rarely speak to you. They speak from themselves, from their fears, from their shame, from the parts of them they don't want to face. And when they feel small, they try to make you feel smaller. Not because you are, but because if they can bring you down, they won't feel quite so alone in their own misery. This is why Stoicism matters so much in moments like this. Epictetus once said, "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things." When someone insults you, it's easy to take it at face value, to internalize it, stew on it, react. But the Stoic sees deeper. The Stoic understands that an insult says little about the target and everything about the source. Disrespect is often just disguised pain, or insecurity, or fear dressed up as confidence. I remember a moment so clearly. I was in a conversation, more like a debate that turned sour, and the person on the other side looked at me and said, "You're way too sensitive. You'll never survive out here." Now, years ago, that would have hit hard. I would have started questioning myself, maybe even apologizing for who I am. But not that day, because I saw it for what it was. Not a comment about me, but a mirror reflecting their fear. What they were really saying was, "I don't know how to feel deeply. I've numbed myself so much, I see empathy as weakness." So I looked at them, calm as ever, and said, "Thanks for revealing more about yourself." And that's when I saw it, that flicker in their eyes, that moment where they knew I'd seen past the mask. Because projection, as Carl Jung explained, is the unconscious transfer of one's own desires or emotions onto another person. People accuse you of being too emotional, too ambitious, too naive, because they're uncomfortable with those same traits in themselves. They don't have the tools to process their own depth, so they attack yours. The moment you realize this, everything changes. Suddenly you don't feel attacked anymore. You feel informed. Their words don't cut the same way because now you understand. They're not revealing the truth about you. They're exposing the truth about themselves. And that knowledge, that's freedom. Because when you respond with a calm observation instead of an emotional reaction, you hold up a mirror they weren't ready to face. Think about it. When someone throws unprovoked shade, they're hoping for chaos. They want you flustered, reactive, off balance. But if you respond with calm clarity, if you look at them and say, "You just revealed more about yourself," you shut the whole game down. You flip the script. You remind them, and everyone watching, that not all battles are worth entering. Some are meant to be observed, understood, and walked away from with grace. Walk away when you've outgrown the conversation. Some conversations are traps disguised as dialogue. You don't realize it at first. You step in thinking it's just a disagreement, maybe even a productive one. But then you notice the tone, the interruptions, the smirks, the subtle digs hidden in "just kidding." And it clicks. This person isn't trying to understand. They're trying to win, or worse, trying to drag you into a mess so they don't have to sit in it alone. That's when you know this isn't a conversation, it's a storm, and you've outgrown the need to dance in the rain just to prove you're unbothered. There's a certain maturity that comes with knowing when to stop talking, when to step back, when to realize that protecting your peace doesn't require a mic drop or a dramatic exit. Sometimes it's just one simple sentence. I've outgrown this conversation. And the moment you say it, you can feel the weight lift off your chest. The tension, the resentment, the emotional tug-of-war you didn't even sign up for, gone. Because what used to keep you up at night, you now walk away from without hesitation. The Stoics had a term for this kind of self-discipline, ataraxia, a lucid state of robust equanimity characterized by ongoing freedom from distress and worry. Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." That hits deep, because most of the drama we step into is optional. You don't have to fight every battle just because someone throws a punch. You don't have to debate people who already decided they don't want to hear you. What you do need is the courage to choose clarity over chaos. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists, but what you look at and face disappears." That group chat didn't stop because I left. It stopped mattering because I left. That's the difference. Growth doesn't need to win, it needs to walk away, quietly, without bitterness, without needing validation. Just walking away from what no longer fits the version of you that you've worked so hard to build. The deeper truth is this: you don't need to finish every argument. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to convert critics into allies. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you, not because you're unclear, but because clarity would force them to confront their own noise, and that's not your job. So the next time someone starts twisting your words, baiting you with backhanded compliments, pushing buttons you no longer react to, pause. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to rise to it. Just say it calmly, clearly, with all the grace your growth has earned. I've outgrown this conversation. Then leave. Let them spin. Let them talk. You've got better places to be, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They can't trigger what you've healed. It's a strange kind of power, the kind that comes from no longer reacting to the things that once broke you. You don't shout, you don't tremble, you don't even flinch. And it's not because you've become numb, it's because you've become whole. You've looked your pain in the eye, named it, sat with it, and walked through it. So now, when someone tries to trigger you with a version of yourself you've already outgrown, all they find is a closed door, locked, sealed, reinforced with wisdom, and that kind of peace. It's unnerving to people who only understand power through control. You know what healing really looks like? It looks like someone saying the same cruel thing they said years ago, and this time you feel nothing. Not indifference, not denial, just stillness. Because healing isn't about pretending you were never hurt. It's about knowing exactly where the wound was and realizing it's not open anymore. It's about carrying the memory without carrying the pain. And that confuses people, especially those who used to succeed at shaking you. I've had people throw my past at me like a weapon, assuming it would still cut. And maybe once it would have. Maybe once their words would have left me spiraling, but not anymore. Now I hear it and think, you're late. That version of me doesn't live here anymore. And when I say that, I don't say it with ego. I say it with peace, with clarity, with the quiet knowing that I've done the inner work most people avoid. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's what healing gives you, control over the space within. Because the world will keep testing you. People will keep throwing jabs. But when you've done the work, when you've sat with your shadows and learned their names, you realize no one can use them against you anymore. That's why I say, you can't trigger what I've healed, not as a defense mechanism, as a declaration. Carl Jung believed that healing requires confronting the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we'd rather keep buried. He said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And he was right. Real healing happens when you stop running from the wound and start understanding it. You stop trying to erase the pain and instead let it shape you, not into something bitter, into something unbreakable. And that's what people don't expect. They expect you to react the way you used to. They expect tears, anger, defensiveness. But what they get is calm, and that calm terrifies them. Because calm says, I'm not who I used to be, and you no longer have access to that version of me. So the next time someone tries to get under your skin, remember this. Your healing is not for them. It's not for their understanding. It's for your peace. You didn't go through all that pain to still be affected by the same noise. You didn't break and rebuild yourself just to crumble at the first sign of pressure. Your silence, your stillness, your lack of reaction, those are not signs of weakness. They are proof that the wound is now a scar. And scars don't feel pain. They don't scream. They don't bleed. They speak quietly. They say, I made it, and you no longer matter. Guard your peace like it's gold. There comes a moment in your life when chaos no longer excites you. Drama doesn't seduce you. Being right isn't as satisfying as being at peace. You stop needing to prove anything to anyone, not because you've run out of things to say, but because you finally realize the cost of every unnecessary reaction. And it's not worth it. Your energy is expensive. Your peace, priceless. And once you learn that, truly learn that, you start treating it like the most valuable currency you have. I used to give everyone access. If you wanted an argument, I'd meet you there. If you threw shade, I'd throw it right back. If you questioned me, I'd explain myself to death just to prove you had the wrong idea. But every time I did that, I handed over a little piece of myself, a piece of my calm, my confidence, my clarity. Until one day I realized I was bleeding energy for people who didn't deserve a drop of it. That's when everything shifted. I stopped engaging with anything that tried to pull me out of alignment. I stopped letting every barking dog distract me from the direction I was walking in. Seneca said it best. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And that's what happens when you let the wrong people live rent-free in your head. They don't just interrupt your day, they start shaping your thoughts, stealing your focus, distorting your peace. But here's the good news. Just like you let them in, you can show them the door. Peace isn't passive. It's a choice, a firm, deliberate boundary between you and the noise. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But here's the catch. You can't become that version of yourself if you're constantly reacting to people who don't even know who they are. That's the problem with letting everyone speak into your life. Not all voices come from clarity. Some come from confusion, from projection, from a desperate need to feel powerful in a life they can't control. And if you're not careful, their chaos becomes your confusion. Now, I treat my peace like it's gold. I don't offer discounts. I don't negotiate with disrespect. I don't explain my silence to people who only listen to respond. Someone tries to bait me into conflict. I let the bait rot. Someone makes a snide comment. I smile like I didn't even hear it. And maybe I didn't, because when you're tuned into peace, your ears stop catching static. Your spirit starts filtering what's actually worthy of your attention. This isn't about arrogance. It's about discipline. It's about valuing your inner world more than you value external validation. Peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the decision not to dance with it. Not every dog that barks deserves your attention. Some just want to hear themselves bark. Let them. You're walking towards something greater. So protect your peace like it's gold, because it is. Every time you don't react, you're investing in yourself. Every time you let something go, you're choosing evolution over ego. Every time you stay silent instead of swinging back, you're making space for clarity, purpose, and joy to thrive. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And in a world that profits off your outrage, your calm is a rebellion. Calm is a superpower. There's something deeply unsettling to others when they can't shake you. When you're calm in the face of chaos, when you don't react to provocation, when you don't feel the need to defend your worth. That's power. Not the loud kind, not the flashy, ego-driven kind. The quiet, steady kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are. That's what the Stoics meant when they spoke about strength, not in muscles or dominance, but in the control of one's inner world. You see, the real flex isn't a clever comeback. It's a centered response. It's not needing to win the argument. It's knowing you don't have to attend every fight you're invited to. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's the cornerstone of this whole journey, the realization that control isn't found in domination, it's found in restraint. We live in a world that rewards the loudest voice, the fastest reply, the flashiest reaction. But those aren't signs of strength, they're signs of instability. True power is still, it's measured, it's deliberate. It's the ability to pause when others explode, to choose silence when others yell, to speak only when your words can't be ignored, not because they're loud, but because they're grounded in truth. Carl Jung understood this too. He once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That's the real test of calm. When you can look at someone else's disrespect and instead of reacting, ask yourself what it's trying to teach you, not about them, but about you. Because every reaction is a reflection, and every non-reaction is a revelation. Handling disrespect isn't about being passive. It's about refusing to give someone else the remote control to your emotions. It's about anchoring so deeply in who you are that nothing shakes you unless you let it. That's not passive. That's precise. That's powerful. So the next time someone tries to rattle you, pauses to test your boundaries, throws a careless insult, or casts shade, hoping you'll dance in the dark, remember this: calm is not weakness. Calm is a weapon. It's a signal that your peace is non-negotiable, that your self-worth isn't built on applause or approval, that your silence is intentional, not empty. One sentence, said with calm conviction, can shake a room. I'm not the one. You can't trigger what I've healed. I've outgrown this conversation. Say it with clarity, let it land, then walk away with everything they wanted to take from you still intact. Because you don't need to fight every battle, especially the ones that aren't worthy of your energy.